Hi, you're listening to the Böll Europe podcast series on elections in 2025. My name is Joan Lanfranco, Head of Communications and Outreach at the EU and Global Dialogue Office of the Heinrich-Böll-Stiftung, the German Green Political Foundation. You can find out more about our work on eu.böll.org. The link is in the show notes. And don't forget to subscribe to stay updated on new episodes. Today, we focus on the Netherlands. On 29 October, the Netherlands went to the polls in a much-anticipated election that could reshape the country's political landscape and its role in Europe. After 2 years of a populist government, the centrist Liberal Party D66, led by Rob Jetten, emerged as the winner. Meanwhile, the GroenLinks PvdA alliance fell short of expectations, raising new questions about the future of the Dutch center-left and about what comes next in coalition talks. So what happened? What's next? And why should Brussels care? In this episode, I talk with Noortje Thijssen, director of the wetenschappelijk bureau GroenLinks, the political foundation of GroenLinks, the Dutch Green Party. Noortje is also a senator for GroenLinks PvdA at the Dutch Upper House since 2023. We'll unpack with Noortje the election results, the prospects for coalition building, and what this means for the Netherlands' direction, both at home and in Europe. Welcome, Noortje.
Thank you so much.
So, the Netherlands has just voted in a closely watched election on 29th of October. This election will reshape Dutch politics, but also have an impact on the country's role in Europe. So let's unpack what happened, who came out on top, what it will mean for the Dutch center-left and for Europe. So let's start with the big picture. The campaign was volatile, the polls shifted week by week, and turnout was rather high. So what just happened? What do you see as the key takeaways from this election?
Yeah, of course, I'm still processing about what happened, but of course, it's already easy to tell you what the takeaways are. But I think to understand what is happening in the Netherlands, it's also important to look a little bit about the political landscape in the Netherlands, because otherwise it's difficult to understand. So if you allow me to, I want to say three things about our political landscape. First, you need to know that it's highly fragmented. We have 15 political parties in parliament. So this means that every incumbent has also a serious challenger. So when I look on the left, we have a socialist party, but there is a green challenger. There is a challenger for pro-European issues. There is one on diversity and inclusion. So there's many political parties active in parliament. Secondly, you already mentioned it's highly volatile. The voters, they switch super easy between all those different political parties. And they also make their decisions super late. So many on the election day itself, some even 1 or 2 hours before they go to vote. But you also need to understand that voters switch easily to a different party, but they always remain in the same block. So if you are a left-wing voter, it's not so likely that you switch to the right block or the other way around. And third, I talk now about two blocks, the left and right. But since some time, political scientists also mention that there is a third block. And this is not unique in the Netherlands. I think in a lot of countries this is happening, but there is now also a radical right bloc in our country. But the radical right bloc in our country is not only one political party. Again, there's also challengers of the party of Geert Wilders, the PVV. There is like two challengers there, but also other political parties. You see that they shift towards the radical right. So the Farmer Party, maybe you can say that they are also linked to that radical right bloc. but even the ultra-Orthodox Christian Party, for example, and even the liberal conservatives, the VvD, they supported many anti-liberal initiatives lately. So now I'm ready to answer your question. What have we seen? Okay, my three takeaways are one, you already mentioned, the social liberals, D66, they won. But today, when we are recording, it's not sure yet. It's Friday now, and the people are still counting votes in Venray. And Venray is a really important municipality for Geert Wilders. And on Monday, the last votes from voters who are living abroad will be counted. So it looks like D66 won, but if they won, it was a close call. So that's one.
Because there's only 2,000 votes difference, the last info we got, right, between D66 and Wilders Party.
Right now it's a difference of 15,000. So
okay.
it's a bit
in
more.
favor of D66.
Exactly. But this can change. But indeed, it's not substantial, right? So my second takeaway is that the left altogether, we lost again. And still we are historically small. And the right and radical right, they are super big when you add them. And my third takeaway is that I think Dutch voters were super much done with the government that didn't deliver. And it was only causing chaos. And there were many fights among each other. So what you see is that there were many disappointed voters from the VVD, so the liberals or the conservatives. And they voted now for D66 and the Christian Democratic Party. Last election, 2 years ago, there was the big new social contract political party. It was led by Pieter Omtzigt. They're gone now. And those disappointed voters voted for D66 and also the Social Democratic Party. And then there's also many PVV voters that were disappointed, and many of them stayed home, or they voted for the liberal conservatives, or Forum for Democracy is one of those radical right parties, or a new one. It's called Ja 21, Yes 21. And they call themselves, we are the reasonable PVV.
And they're members of ECR and the European Parliament, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So what you see is that there is a lot of disappointment now in politics.
Yeah, that brings me to my next point. We've seen a lot of turbulence and polarization in the last 2 years, and also with Wilders' party in government, always at the brink or often at the brink of collapse. So we would have expected maybe some more votes for traditional center-left parties, but that didn't really happen. So how do you see this result, or why didn't the coalition or between GroenLinks and PvdA, they didn't manage to capitalize this fatigue on populism?
Yeah, this is a highly relevant question, I think. And of course, we were also expecting more, to be honest. This was, it's disappointing for us. First of all, I think Frans Timmermans, he was the leader, and I think he was in shape this time. He performed pretty well in all the debates, and super important, he didn't make any mistake. And he had to deal with a lot of toxic personal attacks from opponents, but also from media, and also threats from extremists on the street. So I think he did what he could, and he deserves some compliments for that. But at the same time, I think we need to be also really reflective on ourselves, right? My 2 cents on this is that I think the problem is not that we don't have clever ideas how to solve problems. We have we're very good and strong in policy proposals, and we even can prove that we can finance it on a responsible way. But this is very rational. And I think politics is about emotions. It's about values. It's about identity. It's about winning the hearts of people. And I think we lost it here. The campaign was not triggering emotions, and the leadership profile was based on experience and on taking administrative responsibility. But again, that is factual, but it's not triggering emotions. And if I compare this campaign with D66 that won, he won with energy, with positive vibes. So yeah, I think he could trigger optimism and different emotions. So this is one, but I think that yeah, if you allow me, yeah, there is I think also a second reason why we didn't succeed. Um, but then you also need to understand how Dutch voters what they stand for, because there is a left-wing majority still in the Netherlands when it comes to socio-economic issues. When I think of housing, of care, of costs of living, redistribution, but at the same time there is a right majority when it comes to socio-cultural issues like national identity and migration. And in the Netherlands, but I think also in other countries, it's all about issue ownership. So voters, they don't make a decision based on a full program full of policy proposals, right? The question is who is dominating the debate and what is the discourse that dominates? And can you be like offensive, but also can you define the problem instead of can you offer the best solutions how to solve the problem? And I think we didn't do a good job in setting the agenda. And this is not only due to us. I think this is the interaction between all the political parties and also media. We are all fostering a migration politics, right? So even our political party is contributing because we are reacting constantly on migration, on the agenda of Geert Wilders. And what also doesn't help is that within our party, there is a bit of a division how to deal with this. Some want to also articulate concerns that people are having, and they want to move a bit to the center and give oxygen, I think, to this discourse. While others say, no, we need to tell our own story about the topics that we think it's a problem, and also many people think that is a problem. So I think that the challenge also for us is how can we set the agenda, and that is a long-term project, but it is possible because there is still a left-wing majority in the Netherlands on topics like housing and care, but we need to activate them and we need to mobilize them on these kind of topics.
Zooming in on this long-term project, 2 years ago, GroenLinks and PvdA decided to join forces, and they're on the way of a merger, with the hope of building a strong progressive bloc, and yeah, beyond the election as well. So after this election, some are wondering whether this merging project is going. So how do you see the fusion of the two parties? Is it still on track? Will it face some strain or some rethinking on how to do it?
Yeah, well, we are still on track. um, I think that the merger process, it was not ready yet. There was an early fall of government, so these elections were a little bit too soon for us, to be honest, because next year in June we will have a new party with a new name, with new energy, but also with a clear narrative based on a coherent ideological foundation. So we were not ready yet to define ourselves very clear. And two, yeah, I mentioned before, this is a long-term project, a merger. It takes time. right? And you cannot measure success or failure in 1 or 2 years, or depending on 1 or 2 elections. We have in the Netherlands the tradition also to merge parties. Yeah, my party, the Greens, we are a merged party. The Social Democratic Party used to be 4 parties or 3, but also the Social Democratic Party and the Christian Union are also parties that were originally multiple parties. So it takes time. And my third point of view here is that I think you also need to think what would have happened if we were still operating in different political parties in this highly fragmented landscape with so many volatile voters. If I take a look at our challengers, like the Socialist Party or the Party for the Animals, or Volt, the International Party, they crumbled or are irrelevant. So I think if we didn't join forces, it would have been more likely that we were irrelevant, seeing what D66 also was doing now.
Right. And so we should see maybe in the next election. But the next election is the local, right? Next year you have local elections.
Yeah,
So the
you're
merger
right. Yeah, in
was
March.
geared towards that election, and then the snap election
Yeah,
took place. Yeah.
yeah, right after. Because first in March we have the local elections, and there is, like, I think 90% of the local departments, they will be already merged by that time. But for the 5 to 10% who want to be separated from each other, we don't want to force them, right? So first, the idea is there's local elections, and after the local elections, it's time to finalize the merger between the two parties in June.
Right.
So in June there is a new party coming up.
June 26th. Stay tuned.
Yes, yes, exactly.
So, looking at the winner at D66 and at his charismatic leader, I would say, Rob Jetten, um, he has already hinted that he would favor a government that includes GroenLinks and PvdA.
Yeah.
So, where do you see common ground between D66 and GroenLinks PvdA? And or where do you see some tensions, for instance, on economic or climate policy? Rob Jetten has been quite vocal on climate, for instance, so I
Yeah.
imagine
Yeah.
there could be connecting points, but I guess it means on the details, right?
Yeah, you're right, because we do see them as an ally. Um, Indeed, when it comes to green issues, yeah, there is not a lot of difference between them and us. I think in our policy proposals, there is more focus also on climate justice, and for them more about innovation and a speedy transition. But we are strong allies on climate. And yet, indeed, he was a climate minister, and he was the most effective and successful climate minister the Netherlands ever had. What is also interesting is that his political party is, we always used to be issue owner on education, and the previous government was preparing massive budget cuts on education and universities, but also on the public broadcast, for example. So I think together with them, we can protect education, and we can also strengthen the democratic constitutional state. And that is highly relevant, also being prepared for a next election where maybe the radical right can win again, right? So I think we need to strengthen the democratic constitutional state. Um, but you're right, there's also divisions, of course. I think one of the key issues is, can we protect the welfare state and social security, and also collective public services? Because we also need to increase the budget on defense, since the NATO norm is 3%, and all of the parties, including our political party, we want to deliver on this, but we say not with budget cuts on the welfare state. And I think this is difficult because the other parties, they won't tax the rich. I think there are also less, or we are a bit less strict on the national budget deficit. I mean, it needs to be okay, but I think sometimes it can be more wise to be a bit less strict on that. So yeah, I think this is a challenge, and another challenge will be migration, because D66 they shifted to the right on this topic as well. And if I see a government with D66 and Christian Democratic Party and the Liberals or Conservatives, then we will be very lonely on migration issues. Yeah.
So now it's time for coalition talks. That's when the real drama begins. So what configurations are actually on the table? I hear it in Belgium, for instance, they assign a formateur. I don't know if it's the same in the Netherlands. If it's up to Rob Jetten to start, I guess as the first party. So where would you see the possible coalitions, or at least to start with, like the first options?
Yeah, Rob Jetten, when he has the initiative, we know today or after the weekend, he already was explicit about it. He says, my first favorite coalition would be the Christian Democratic Party, the Conservatives, or the Liberals. I don't know how you call the VvD. Then the question is it our party, the Greens and Alliance of the Social Democrats, or 21. So this was the reasonable PVV. And Rob Jetten already told everyone, my preference is first I start with the Greens and Social Democratic Party. But it's already a challenge because the Conservatives, their campaign was fully focused on telling the whole world we must keep the Greens and the Social Democratic Party out of government. So they need to make a U-turn to make this happen. And I think what they want is the government together with 21. So yeah, it's going to be interesting what's going to happen. But those are the two realistic options, I would say.
I think we all see the Netherlands as a land of compromise. So, as you said, we'll see in the coming weeks whether some parties change their stance on GroenLinks PvdA and arrive to an.
Yeah.
But if you look at now coming back to Brussels and also European capitals that are watching a new Dutch government taking shape, um, what can we expect on EU policy by a new Dutch government? A non-populist one, presumably, with Geert Wilders,
Mm-hmm.
but also with many burning issues, be it defense, but also the next multi-annual financial framework, climate crisis. So, what can we expect from the next government, led presumably by the 66?
Yeah. Well, I'm hopeful about that because I was, I was not happy with the situation, and the Netherlands. We always used to be, a reasonable uh, political ally in Europe, and we always try to be a front runner in some issues. We try to be relevant. We try to be trustworthy and stable and steady. So what I'm hoping for is that we can take position again in Europe and also in international politics. Because previous governments, they were only focused on themselves and very much focused on the Netherlands, and there was no interest in the world around. And if there was interest in the world around us, it was always negative, if I would say. So I think when it comes to international security and peace, the Netherlands can be a trustworthy partner again, open for European collaboration. But I hope that is why it's so important that the Greens and the Social Democratic Party will join, that there is also a Europe based on solidarity between the different countries, member states. So yeah, I hope that we invest again in strong partnerships with an open mind toward the world, and yeah, with an with a different with a not so focused on local and national issues. That is what I hope. And this is
It's
also why I
great.
think it's such a pity that Frans Timmermans didn't make it, because still I think he is the best prime minister the Netherlands could wish for, but also European Union. So yeah, that is a big loss. This elections, that this didn't happen.
It's good, nevertheless, to end on a hopeful note in this turbulent times. So we'll look closely at what comes next for the Netherlands. But
Mm.
I thank you very much, Nortje, for your time. This has been a very interesting and enlightening conversation. And yeah, all the best for the coming weeks and months for you in the Netherlands.
Thank you so much.
You've been listening to the Bel Europe podcast on the results of the Dutch elections with Noortje Thijssen, director of the wetenschappelijk bureau GroenLinks. You can find more analysis and updates on Dutch and European politics in the show notes and on our website eu.bel.org. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends and colleagues. Until next time, goodbye!